And last night when the ball got fumbled into the end zone and the ball goes to Carolina just because it supposedly, you couldn't even tell for sure with your naked eye that the ball sailed to the left of the pylon going through the end zone and out. That belonged to Carolina. And had it just trickled out right before the pylon, would have belonged to New Orleans. But this rule, this crazy-ass touchback rule, I can't stand it. And I figured let's get Dean Blandino on, former head of NFL refs and Fox Rules analyst, back here on the show. How are you, Dean?
I'm good. How are you?
Well, I'm pissed, Dean. I'll be honest with you. I'm just pissed. I can't stand this rule. Why does this rule exist, Dean? Why does it exist?
So, I'm gonna give you a little background on the rule.
That's
this
what
rule,
I want.
This rule goes back to, I've researched it. We're talking 1926. This rule goes back, and maybe even further. But my records in my deep, dark library that I have in my basement only go back that far.
Okay.
And again, it goes to if you put the ball out of bounds in the end zone, it's treated differently than in the field of play. The end zone is different. Okay, so we all accept that the end zone is different. If you get the ball in the end zone, in your opponent's end zone, it's a touchdown. Right? If you put the ball in your own end zone, it's a safety. And it's different in the field of play. So it's consistent with every time you put the ball in your opponent's end zone, it's a touchback. And with the end zone, there's great risk and there's great reward. And the key is if you fumble and you recover it in your opponent's end zone, you're going to get a touchdown. And the key there is you didn't recover. You did two bad things. You fumbled. You didn't recover it. So why are we going to give you a do-over? And I think that's basically what it comes down to. It's simple, it's consistent with loose balls that go into your opponent's end zone, and the end zone, as we all know, is just different.
So here's my response to that, Dean. Number one, just because Teddy Roosevelt wanted it doesn't mean we should still want it here in 2019. Okay, that's number one. Okay, number two, end zone might be a little different here, but why are we rewarding the defense, which has given up 99.5 yards, the ability to get the ball back just because somebody was foolish enough to hold it out for the pylon, or if somebody just accidentally let it go? And then I'll get to number three. What do you think?
I think you said it. You said foolish enough to reach the ball out and protect the football. And that's not the argument for the rule. Look, you're trying to score. I get that. But here's the thing: if think about it the other way. Think about it, the 5-yard line. The offense is at their own 5-yard line, and they fumble, and that ball goes out of bounds at the half-inch line. Okay, they're going to get the ball at the half-inch line. If it hits the pylon, it's going to be a safety. Is that unfair? Because it's the same concept.
It is the same concept. I guess it's the same concept. But it's different in the fact that the defense is getting rewarded for a player that's trying to make a big offensive play after they've given up, more likely than not, a large enough amount of time for their backs to be against the wall. And I understand that this is kind of apples and apples, but I'm talking about an offensive team that's going in to score, right? And so suddenly they're making a aggressive play to score, and because of a 2-inch difference, they're losing the football.
But you're saying, and your other argument is that because the defense has allowed the offense to get all the way down the field, and now we're rewarding them.
Yes.
But what if the offense, the other team threw an interception, and the defense returned it to the 5, and now New Orleans is starting first and goal at the 5, and that play happens. Well, the defense didn't do anything, right? It's still the same rule. And I think that's the whole thing again. It's the end zone, and I get it. Look, it's a big penalty. It's you lose the football, but the thing is, if you fumble the ball into your opponent's end zone, there's only two things. It's either a touchback or it's a touchdown, right?
Well,
so there's no do-overs, and it's same the other way, right? It's either a safety or it could be a touchdown.
Well, did you think? Let's just talk about last night alone. Do you think that ball definitely went through the end zone?
I don't know.
You can't tell.
And that's the other part of it, is that the ball looked like it may have crossed over the pylon, and that is reviewable. They looked at it, they couldn't tell. But again, think about that play last night, and I'll pose you the question, because there's another part of this, and we can't lose sight of the fact that the rule is consistent and simple, and we don't want to complicate these rules. But it was 3rd and 4 from the 5-yard line. Okay, so the line to gain is the 1. If you're I believe you're in favor of a reverse touchback concept.
Yes.
Right. Where the offense gets the ball at the 20. Okay, let's say that rule is in place.
Yes.
It's 3rd and 4 from the 5.
Right.
The ball is fumbled somewhere near the 1-yard line, pretty close.
Yes.
There's also an offensive hold called on the play. Walk me through the next down and distance for New Orleans in that situation.
So if there's a hold on the play that happened last night, and I love this, by the way, Dean Blandino.
Yeah.
I love this. You know, I live for this sort of thing.
I'm glad someone way smarter than me is making this argument.
Okay, so here's what walks through, is that Oakland accepts my suggestion of a touchback because it is now 3rd and goal from the 20. You don't lose, you don't change it down. It's not first, you don't get a fresh set of downs because you fumbled through the end zone. It's 3rd and goal from the 20. Or if the play happened, if the play happened, then you decline the penalty because you're taking the result of the play, which is a fumble into the end zone and a reverse touchback, 3rd and goal from the 20.
Why would it be 3rd and goal? Why wouldn't it be 4th and goal?
Because it was 3rd and goal. That's why.
So we're going to replay the down from the 20.
Correct.
So New Orleans did 3 bad things. They fumbled, they didn't recover, they held, and they're going to get to replay the down from the 20.
So now that we're workshopping it, how about loss of down? It's like
and millions
intentional
of people
grounding.
are watching us trying to figure this out on the field, by the way. So we're trying to work through this. But
well,
okay.
Dean, I know you're trying to work through this, but we're trying to make sure that something completely punitive isn't so punitive, and it's just flash of an eye. I mean, at least when Derek Carr reached for the pylon a couple of years ago, ball flew out of his hand, it hit the pylon, you could tell. I mean, last night was totally arbitrary, and these guys I
agree with you there, and that's ultimately, and I still go back to great risk, great reward, and I think, and again, we can try to workshop this, but sometimes I really don't think we can sacrifice simplicity for absolute fairness, because sometimes the rules aren't going to be perfectly equitable, and I get it, and this is a big play. It doesn't happen very often, but I still go back to the end zone is different. And that play last night, had we had a reverse touchback type of rule, it would have been pretty complicated to try to work through all of it. Whereas the way the rule is now, it's a touchback. Carolina's getting the ball to 20, decline the penalty, let's go. So
in your era in the front office of the National Football League, was there any appetite, or do you know of any growing appetite to change it to the way that I see it?
You know, it has always been part of the discussion, and I've never been part of a competition committee meeting where it ever got to the point where we put pen to paper and we started to actually write a proposal. And when you go down that path, that's when it starts to get serious. When you start to write a proposal and then you're putting that in front of the owners for a potential vote. It never got that far. And I'm not sitting here and saying that maybe it could. I mean, the NFL sometimes does react, and if this happens in a championship game or a Super Bowl and people feel that that's not an equitable result, maybe there might be more appetite. I know right now there is not a lot of appetite to change this.
Is that because John Mara sat in the room and talked about when his dad created the rule in 1926, Dean?
It's possible. It's possible. Might have been, Pereira, who was there at the time in 26. He might have been the one that,
Good
stayed
jab.
with it. But
great jab right there, Dean.
I know.
So before I let you go, I asked this of Mike last week, and I'll ask it of you now, Dean Blandino, former head of NFL refs and Fox Rules analyst. There is so much going on in the NFL that gets overshadowed by the Twitter conversation or just in general about the officiating and calls that look so obvious that aren't called. And there was a delay of game penalty that could have been called in Denver, just as for example. The Pittsburgh fans are still howling over the lack of a false start call that led to a touchdown that sparked Phillip Rivers' comeback. What can be done to fix this, Dean?
Yeah, I think, and Mike suggested it, and I think it's something that we had discussed, in the past. The way the technology is, officials are held to such a high standard, and it's impossible as a human being to see things in real time and be perfect, right? And so I think there is there is an appetite, and I think it's time to have that discussion to add a video official or some concept of that you can look at the video and you can communicate seamlessly with the crew on the field and fix some of these obvious mistakes. And I think you have to do it. It has to be limited, and it has to be big plays or potentially big plays, because you don't want to be re-officiating the play via replay or video after every down. I think you have to be, again, it has to be limited. I think we have to use technology to help the officials on the field because the game is just too fast to be perfect.
So you're talking pre-snap penalties? What else would you throw into that?
Yeah, I mean,
mix
a pre-snap penalty, I wouldn't want a video official looking for every twitch by the left guard on a 3-yard run. I think you have to, it would have to be the big face mask that's missed. It would have to be something, a false start that's missed on a touchdown, things like that can impact games and change outcomes. I think those are the plays that I would start with. But you'd have to come up with a list of plays that you could look at and again, keep it limited.
Dean, you're the man. Thanks for joining. When you come back to Los Angeles, I know you're out east. Let's get you back in studio, certainly
Sounds
around
good,
the playoffs.
Rich. Thanks.
You got it. That's Dean Blandino.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.